AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to The Angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the AltaVista Angle. It's our podcast where we're talking about all things relevant to the construction industry, contracting, etc. Today, Aaron Hockel, your host, also have AltaVista managing partner Ray McLaughlin with us. And then we're very excited to welcome a guest, Andrew Sachs with Mauloa. We won't even try to talk about who he is or what he does. Andrew, we're going to turn it right over to you and let you kind of tell us about yourself and introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. Ray and Aaron, thanks for the time and being on your podcast. I run a private equity fund. I am from San Diego, California, born and bred. Thought I was going to be a professional golfer. I used to play with Charlie Hoffman and Torrey Pines, and God had different plans for me. And so I went to Georgetown, School of Foreign Service, went to London School of Economics, got an MBA, thought I was going to be an economist, maybe a lawyer, and I discovered this wonderful world of private equity, and was lucky enough to my first job was working on the second largest private equity fund in the world, $1.9 billion at Morgan Stanley Capital Partners. And anyone who knows a little bit about private equity knows today, I think 1.9 billion doesn't even get you probably in the top 200 of private equity funds. And for the last 30 years, I've been in private equity. I've run 5 funds. I started my own private equity fund almost 20 years ago. I live in Washington, D.C. in Potomac, Maryland. I was recruited back in 2000 by a gentleman named Mark Warner. He became Senator Warner and Governor Warner, and that brought me to the Washington, D.C. area and ran an investment fund for him, and then ran an investment fund for a gentleman named Josh Freeman, Carl Freeman Companies, and he was tragically killed in a helicopter crash about 19 years ago. And since then, and really the essence of what I do, and started with Josh, was to invest in small family businesses that are part of our community, and that investing is terrific and making money is a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, building businesses in our community, supporting them is really the essence of what we felt was the secret sauce to doing that well. Fast forward 19 years, the model has certainly kind of gone a little bit, we've matured, become a little bit smarter through some failures and some successes. And today we invest in family-owned businesses for owner liquidity and working capital to grow. We typically buy 30-40% of a business. So we actually don't acquire a business. We're complete opposite of what you would call traditional private equity. We have no timelines. We don't like debt. And the owners stay in control. So while I call myself a private equity person, I certainly fit within the definition. Our company does it very different than what one would think of traditional private equity. And it really gets down to really this deep belief that small middle market businesses are the backbone of our country. They are the engine of our country. And the people who lead them and the impact they have is enormous. And we believe we want to further their journey, whether it's into the next generation. We think that's special, as opposed to the private equity model, which certainly has the traditional private equity model, which has its benefits, but I'm sure we'll get a little bit into maybe some of the negative consequences of kind of how the industry works. And so we've been doing that for 19 years. We traditionally invest $10 to $20 million, have invested up to 50. So they are mature operating companies, traditionally at least 3 million of trailing free cash flow. We also talk about cash flow. We don't like to talk about EBITDA. Charlie Munger was famous for saying EBITDA is bullshit. And I think you see anyone, and we talk a little bit about getting into sort of the numbers and investment bankers, that number is certainly important, but has become very manipulating. And so we're long-term investors who believe in Mauloa means endless in Hawaiian. We believe in making decisions based on your company staying in business for a long time. And we like endless streams of cash flow along with the owners. So we distribute out on an annual basis, hopefully our companies to the owners and to us. And we are completely aligned with our owners. There is not, we're not in a position where we can use the company as a piggy bank and do strange financial restructurings and dividends, and everything's about working with the ownership and continuing to build the company. And we focus on business services, so we have a lot of contractors. We've invested in, I think, 5 different contractors in different fields, and we invest in businesses where the people are the assets, the people run the business, and service businesses, and we like that.
So Andrew, one of the things that was really compelling when we talked is you're really a long-term investor. You're not coming in to package these deals together to try to flip them, which I think is most of private equity. Can I ask you why do you like that? What compels you to be that type of investor?
Really great question, and a number of reasons. One, to me, having a company that is successful is very difficult to find great opportunities, good companies. And so to sell something, to simply pay taxes on it and then have to reinvest the money into another asset actually is not really good for your investors. Now, private equity does it because they make money on raising new funds, getting their carry, new management fees. Everything's about 3 to 5 years that we have to get in. We have to be out in 5. Now it's kind of 5 to 7 years. And then we have to go out and raise more money. And then we have to get new fees, new carry. And that's a great machine for private equity, for the general partners. They make lots and lots of money. I don't believe that system is good for the LPs, the investors. It's misaligned. Doesn't mean the LPs do badly, but there's misalignment. And more importantly, it's bad for the companies.
Right.
Having a timeline, one of the fundamental principles of business is timing is extraordinarily important based on business cycles. Now, we haven't had a business cycle for a while, which is another conversation. But to say I have to be out in 5 years, along with putting a bunch of debt on it, you start making these decisions which just are not in the best interest of the company. They're in the best interest of the private equity firms trying to make money and get out so they can raise a new fund.
Okay.
And so getting back to the belief of I'm a libertarian and believe in the invisible hand, and I'm a large fan of capitalism. I think it has an enormous impact. And growing a business, continuing to grow that business, it impacts our communities and our society in fundamental ways. And so that doesn't mean that doesn't happen with private equity under their model. It does occasionally, but it is certainly set up in a way that is not in the favor of success for the business.
So one of the things that I'll share my story just quickly. I sold my first company when I was 38 years old, and it was a contracting company, electrical contracting, and I thought it was going to be the greatest thing that I ever did. And it was really a sad day for me. And, I thought I would continue with the company, but, the new owners, you get a little misaligned. And then when I would see my trucks running down the street, I actually would be upset because it was like getting a divorce. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sell this thing. There wasn't this feeling of being elated. The capital was great. And then I had to reinvent myself. So one of the things that I've always learned, I've learned it from a lot of really successful friends of mine, is that the compounded earnings of a small business, it's hard to beat that as an investment. So I think when people do want to sell, in fairness to them, there's going to be good times and there's bad times, but don't try to sell your business just because you hear it's great, right? You want to sell your business for the right reasons. You're looking for strategic capital. You have a life-changing event. Things are different. You want to get out, you want to retire, but you hear, hey, I'm going to sell my business. It's not always exactly what you thought it was going to be. And sometimes you do sell it to the wrong people and you're forced to buy it back. I think that's a reality. I'm sure you've experienced some of that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a terrific point. If you polled, I don't know the exact statistics, but if you polled owners who had sold to private equity, I'm guessing a high percentage of them, if you talk about the culture, the people, and by the way, how do you have a high performing business? It's because you're a great leader. It's because you created a great culture. It's because you care about your people.
Right.
That is the focus. And then the success comes because of that, not
Right.
the other way around. And I think what's become very hard is, and so I don't blame anyone at all for ever, quote, ringing the bell or selling the business to private equity, because the valuations over the last 10 years have gone up considerably. Now they are leveling off a little bit, but you're talking, especially in the contracting business, businesses that would sell for 4 to 5 times trailing earnings or something of that nature, are selling for 10. And you got into areas, and I've never beseeched anyone, where if you can take off a certain amount of money that is generational wealth or that really impacts deeply your lifestyle, then I think you have to consider it. But I think you bring up an amazing point, and I brought it up before. Great businesses are very difficult to find. And so if you have, from a pure investment standpoint, you're absolutely right. And this is the genius of Warren Buffett is, I mean, starting when he was 15, every dollar he wouldn't look at as a dollar. He'd say, that's $100, because it's going to come. If I spend this dollar, I've lost the compounding over over the next 30 years or whatever it is. And that compounding, and what was it, Einstein, who said it was, one of the mysteries of the universe or something, because the compounding is amazing. And you bring up a great point. I mean, having, and going back to Mauloa, endless streams of cash flow that compound, combined with the impact that you bring up. I mean, there's very much private equity typically does not run the businesses the way founders run them, for good or for bad. So yeah, no, I agree with you.
Right. And just for full candor, I mean, we want to try to educate people as best we can who are listening to the show. The space for contractors, I don't know if it's ever looked brighter, quite honestly. There's a shortage of contractors, there's a shortage of tradespeople. And while we're going through some slow periods and things change, there's a little cyclicality in the businesses. The secular trends in contracting look spectacular to me. Again, one of the reasons why we've aligned with contractors, and we have 600 plus odd customers, and we see a variety of our customers doing incredibly well right now. We see customers that are struggling. We're helping them as much as we can, and we're actually seeing significant success in those plans. We're also seeing a lot of our customers that sold to private equity buying back. We've got at least 3 or 4 customers that are buying their business back right now. So, this is a great way to get our clients connected to something. I get this question: how do you sell your business, all the time? So this has been great to just talk this out for our crew. And in Hockel, I'm sure you've got a ton of questions.
I have one question I want to ask before we get back into the meat of this thing. And Andrew, you versus Ray, you said you're a great golfer. Ray's a great golfer. He tells us at least he is. I've never played. I don't play golf.
No.
I don't know. So
Let's
I've
be
never
clear.
seen you guys.
My bio says used to be a good golfer.
So here's the question. I have that dollar. I'm going to turn it into $100 like Warren Buffett. Am I putting that dollar on Andrew Sachs or Ray McLaughlin in a skins game, heads up?
How many shots am I getting, Andrew?
He said heads up.
Oh, no. We come on now. Well, I have an answer for you. If we play Avenel, I'm going to bet on Sachs.
Okay.
If we play concession, I'm betting on McLaughlin.
All right,
how's
there
that?
we go.
And we'll have to make that happen, Andrew. We'll do that.
I enjoy the pressure, so I would love to find out. To me, golf is so similar to, building a business. It's one step at a time, one shot at a time.
Yeah.
And you have to short memory. And you have to have a short memory.
Great businessmen, great golfers, short memories.
It's one of the best characteristics you can have. So yeah, Aaron, go ahead. We'll
So now you said you wanted to be a professional golfer.
I think we're going to have a follow-up. Well, just because I wanted to be one doesn't mean I'm good.
Right. Why don't we talk a broad commentary here on the state of private equity as a whole? You kind of drip some things. Hey, the valuations have gone from 4 or 5 times to 10 times, all those sort of comments and things. Give us a broad overview state, a couple quick talking points, snippets, something a listener can take away to say, this is what's going on out there.
So let me give you just a brief little history of private equity, because I think you have to kind of put it within perspective. When I started 30 years ago, private equity and really the basis of private equity is it's an inefficient market. Companies don't know how to get capital. They're not sophisticated. So I'm going to invest in a company at a lower valuation, bring some sophistication, and then go to the next level. And there wasn't that much capital chasing opportunities. And you fast forward to 2010, where you go from 2010 to 2021, we went a little bit up and down, where interest rates are 0%. And because of 0%, there was no yield in any other assets. And so private equity, along with real estate, tremendous amounts of capital came in. So you had the amount of money in private equity went up, and I'm not exactly sure, but I think over 5 times the amount of money chasing relatively the same amount of deals. So it's a little bit of just simple demand and supply that's why the valuations went up, because and then I think another piece which never existed is you have technology today, and I mean technology from an ability to create an efficient market. And one of the things I'm sure we'll talk about is the role of an investment banker of selling a business. And an investment banker has the ability to market your business to however many 3,000 private equity funds with a push of a button.
Yep.
And so where it used to be all the leverage was on the capital side, all the leverage moved to the seller side. And especially with the advent of such competitive markets, and private equity raises a bunch of money and then has to spend it, needs to put it out over the next 5 years. They have a set time frame. And so they're not paid to be patient. And so you had this, and we're still in that state. But the last 3 to 4 years, 5 years, these companies, some of them are doing well. You have good private equity funds who invested in good companies, but some of them are struggling because they paid way too much money for these businesses. And how do they pay? They put on way too much debt. And that's where when Wei brings up that he's seen a couple buy back their business, that's exactly what we're talking about. Along with private equity tends to not, the culture we talked about is so important. That's not really a focus of private equity. But so in terms of today, though, it's a very interesting situation that no one knows exactly how it's going to play out. You still have more money on the sidelines than there's ever been in the history of private equity, which needs to be spent in the next few years. Yet at the same time, they know that most of these private equity funds will not raise new funds moving forward because they don't have the track record.
Is the climate today? I know in 22, 23, and 24, it was robust. Is it still fairly robust? I mean, it's a little slower, I would imagine.
It is definitely slowed down to the extent interest rates are higher, right? So that impacts it. They're looking backwards where they have some problems, so that kind of slows down. But if you have a quality company, especially in the contracting business, because of what used to be called roll-ups, but now they call them platform businesses, they are quite attractive. And one of the lines I use is, and it's good for sellers, is be careful what you can accomplish with a spreadsheet. So it's very easy to bring I'm going to put your company into this platform and synergies and all this stuff. But nowhere do they underwrite the culture and keeping that together and running it. And so, for quality businesses, I think it's softened. Based on what I see, though, they're still quite robust relative to historical standards. But it'll be fascinating to see. And then you have that's the state of private equity. It's sort of in this very interesting position of having tons of money. So there's still good opportunities to exit, more selective, a little bit softer. But they have to put out the money.
So it's still a seller's market, if that's what you're telling me. It's a seller's market
for the quality businesses,
for the quality businesses,
or businesses that fit into these platform. Whether you've seen medical centers, or you see pest control, or you see HVAC, every one of them, there seems to be not an industry that they're not aggressively rolling up. So I think those are attractive. You may not get quite the valuations you would have gotten a couple years ago, but they're still, in my estimation, fairly high.
Oh, good. So Andrew, when you're looking at these companies, what are some of the, I know I'm stealing probably your thunder here, Hockel, I apologize, but it just seemed like a good point. Everyone thinks it's all financial. So actually, I'm going to redirect here for a second because I get this question all the time. The difference between EBITDA and cash flow for our listeners, because they're hearing net income, they're hearing EBITDA, there's cash versus accrual. Can you just kind of highlight the difference between EBITDA and
Sure.
cash flow?
So EBITDA used to never exist. It was actually invested by a gentleman named John Malone, who is one of the great cable titans of the yesteryears. And he created a metric which showed, he said, I'm investing tons into the fiber, into the cable, and you shouldn't ding me for that. And I just want you to look at the operations that I'm throwing off. And so EBITDA specifically is earnings. So think of your net income before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Now, the problem with that is you're not including depreciation and amortization, which typically is if you have if you have a contracting business with equipment, that equipment you have to replace it. So there is something there that probably should be picked up. Obviously, interest, it shouldn't really be a big issue, but if you're throwing tons of debt on a business,
Right.
It could be moving forward relative to how strong the business is. Taxes, I think, is fair because most businesses are pass-throughs and not doing it. But the big thing they don't put in there either is capital expenditures, which is why John Malone created it, because he was spending billions on capital expenditures and he didn't want to show anyone, or didn't want to include in his metrics. And so EBITDA, I think, has the intentions of being approximately operating cash flow. It is now, I think, businesses that do have some reoccurring CapEx. It doesn't pick up. As I said, if you can have future debt, it doesn't pick up capital expenditures. And so if that's part of your business, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's just being aware. So when you're structuring these investments, what's it going to look like moving forward? I mean, it is reality. Every business is going to be sold off EBITDA. We look at, because we're not interested in flipping businesses, we look at cash flow. And the one other piece I didn't mention is working capital. So real free cash flow is actually you deduct your change in working capital. So the faster you grow, for most businesses, their working capital increases because they're not getting paid as fast from their customers, and you have to keep paying your vendors. And so you actually have less cash flow.
Right. And current assets minus current liabilities is what you're looking at on
exactly,
working capital.
For working capital.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so if you have your days outstanding as 45 days on your receivables and 30 days on your payables, it's just math. The bigger you get, the more working capital is going to be required on the balance sheet. And so that's an area where we're actually quite successful. One of the key areas where we create value. You certainly can go to a bank. There are lines of credit. Those are renewed every year. So you do have some agency risk there. But we will come in and put a slug of cash on the balance sheet specifically for working capital. And it's just not meeting the working capital needs. It actually can be a huge strategic advantage, which I think most owners don't get. If you have a strong balance sheet and are growing, you can pay your vendor. You can choose and pay your vendors early. Sure. So you get the best vendors.
Right.
Which is a very powerful weapon.
So is it fair to say that if somebody wanted to sell, right, and they want to cash out and retire, right, that's not what you do. You're looking at strategic capital.
Opposite. That exactly.
Right. You're looking to keep the business intact with the local owners. You're willing to go up to 40%, I think you said.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have gone over 50%, but that was just from an economic standpoint. The governance always, I want the person running the business to be in control of the business.
Right. And then
that's
you also,
very important.
On the other question that I had for you, and again, Hockel, I'm starting stealing your role here, but what are the intangibles that you're looking for other than the economics? What are the intangibles in each business? Because I know I've been involved with Andrew on some deals, and I know how diligent he is, and he does a significant due diligence, but he's not just looking at the economics, right? What else are you looking at?
Well, I wish I could go back a long time ago and tell my younger self this, because it definitely took me coming out of the finance world. And I think this is where you get stuck with a lot of private equity guys, because all they really know is finance, where it's numbers and strategy. And that the top of our due diligence list and the most important thing is culture.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And culture is, how do you treat your people? And how
Yeah.
do your people treat each other? And how do you um, work? It's very similar to a professional sports team where, the sports teams with the highest paid athletes don't win.
Mm-hmm.
It's the teams that work the best
Yeah.
together. And it's no different in a business. I think it's much harder because as you grow, you're obviously adding people to your roster, and you need to make sure that that culture, that is the one thing that is going to make sure that you're successful. Anything
Yeah.
else, skill sets can be taught, cash flow can be analyzed, all these things.
Bravo.
But culture is the driver.
Give me a culture green flag and a culture red flag.
So we find one of the biggest traits for culture green flag is curiosity. Do
Okay.
they want to improve? Are they engaged? Do they care? And so a big thing for us and part of our culture is self-actualization and really continuing to create a better version of yourself. That's
Oh,
I'll give you a red flag, which I should have picked up but didn't. One of these things we learned: we had a business, never fired anybody.
ooh.
And some people are like, wow, everyone's happy. That's a great culture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no.
great cultures
Yeah.
kick people out very quickly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And by the way, there's no right culture. So there's
Right.
no, like, you have to have this culture or that culture. It's very much, who is the leader? Are they authentic to who they are? And what drives them? What values drives them? And making sure the people that you're hiring, the team you're building, the culture that is going to pervade as you grow are consistent with those values.
I want to interject on this one for just a bit. Sorry, Aaron. Yeah, so we get this question all the time. How did you build the culture at AltaVista? And I think we're one of the more culturally strong organizations. And I think something Andrew said earlier in a call with me is it starts at the top, and it really does start at the top. And I don't believe you can build a great business without a great culture, because we look at AltaVista and we say our team's so aligned, we can do anything. If there's something that's going to change or pivot within our business, our team will pivot for us. They'll learn, they'll adapt, because we're all rowing together. We're all on the same team. So just to highlight on culture for me, and Aaron, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, but it starts at the top, and it's how you embrace your people, not only from a standpoint of compensation, reward, path, engagement, and empowerment, right? You want people that you're in the trenches. And I always say, look, I'm running this thing. I've been doing this for 30 years. But the people in the trenches know more about what the clients need and what they want than I do. And so if I'm not embracing their ideas, their thoughts, their strategies, and I'm not doing my job. And so if you do that as an organization, again, you have to have the comp plans, you have to have the monetary rewards that go along with success, right? If we're all going to be successful together, we're all going to win together, and equally as important, we're going to lose together. And I think for anyone who wants to build a strong organization, and I get this question at least once a week. I had a friend of mine call me who runs a great business, very successful. And he says, I have a broken culture. How can I fix it? And I'll share the story because it's a great story. Um, they even canceled an event because nobody wanted to go. And so I said, well, what did you do with the funds for that event? And he said, we pocketed it. And I said, well, why didn't you just give it out as a bonus? As a bonus to say, hey, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't on the topic.
Yep. I'm
Well,
amazed.
the fact that no one
Ray.
wanted to attend also, I'd say, is probably a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And then he asked, right. But he then asked me, how do I fix it? I gotta be honest
he's got to
with you.
look inward. He's got to look
Yeah,
inward first. What is he giving out to the whole? What is he representing?
agreed. But fixing a bad culture sounds a lot harder than starting a good one and keeping it moving.
Completely agree. And from experience, having stepped in some cultures that were not good, and it's incredibly difficult.
Hockel, what are your thoughts?
I'm just shocked that you got through that answer, Ray, without saying the word listen. Right? Because I think that's something that you emphasize. We have to listen to the people every day, listen to the customers, listen to this, you know, that's something that you've stressed is like, hey, we need to listen to what everybody's saying, from, the 6-month employee to the 6-year employee to the, you know what I mean? That's something that you've always sort of stressed. listening and hearing and understanding their needs and making them feel heard, I think is something that we've always done. You know, and understanding too, I think an interesting thing that we learned is we have a younger workforce in general than some of contractors, constructions, right? The needs and the wants of the younger people are very different than what they might be or what we might perceive them to be. I remember the time when people wanted more PTO and they weren't as, I'd rather have more PTO than more compensation. Give me 3 more days off. Don't give me another $5,000. They probably wanted both deep down. But, those were like those listening to those little things, I think is something that we've done consistently. And so that's, again, why I'm shocked your answer didn't include that.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah. Sort of hammer the listening thing.
Well, look, we talked about in our sales training, listening is the key to business, right? If you're selling and you're a good listener, you're gonna do great. If you're managing a client relationship and you're listening, you're gonna do great, right? I mean, that's just business. I think that's a really good point. I do believe that the organization, as a whole, right? They have to embrace that. It's not, we can all say we're great customer service stewards, right? It's what you do every day. It's getting people in a room and really just picking their brain. And another thing that was said was terminating the weaker part of your team. I believe it was Jack Welch that said, if you cut 10% of your workforce, I don't care if you have A's, B's, and C's, but if you cut the bottom 10% annually, you're going to build a hell of a team. Now, that comes off as callous at times. I've been told that's callous. But if you're not firing people in your organization, there's no way you can have 100% retention. AltaVista had 97% retention one year. I would say that it was a great year for us, but we definitely let some people hang around that shouldn't have. And then what happens is when they get to a point where they're not productive anymore, or they don't believe in the business, they're going to hurt you.
Well, and Ray, I would argue too, you're not being callous at all. You're benefiting them because they're in a culture, they're in a system, they're in a job that it's not the right path for them.
That's right.
So they need to find, to me, it's all the leaders are on a journey, and who are they bringing in as part of their team for that journey? Right. To your point of, you can't be in all the details, you need to trust people, you need to, and how do I make, and so anyone who's not a fit, to your point, is not only horrible for the team, the existing team, but it's horrible for that person.
Agreed. No, I agree.
They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to do anything. And so I wanted to just make one comment, and I completely agree with listening. So I kind of put, and I'm not very good at it, and I try to constantly focus on it. I do put it under the, or it's maybe similar to curiosity, because it's not just listening. It's really being curious about, what are your employees' needs? What do they want? What, more importantly, especially contractors, and depends on the type of contractor, but those in the residential, you direct to consumer now, you have a direct relationship through technology. You have a direct relationship with your customer. You need to be curious. Who are they? What do they want? How do I make their life better? Where do I fit in? And so that, to me, listening is very important, but it's that next level of, in everyone in the organization, of actually the curiosity of the end customer, and then your curiosity on the employee's base and helping them in their journey. I think that all drives everything.
Cool. I love the conversation, and where I'm going to go with it is this. So we've kind of talked about who you would look to invest in. Maybe there's the right person for you. There's people who you would not be a fit with. Where I'm going to take it back is, I'll say I have people listening. Person number one, they fit the Mauloa to a T. Well, we have this great culture. I'm curious. I want to grow. I want my son to take over. We have all the financials in place. He's getting emails from the interns, the technology, the guy sending out 3,000 emails. We got somebody else. They got no kids. They're 65. They got a great business. They're getting peppered with emails and phone calls from PE guys all the time too, right? I get them randomly in my inbox about, so I think everybody in business is getting these things. My question is, all right, before I take that call, before I reply to that email that finally catches my eye, what are 2 or 3 things I, as a business owner, have to know?
Terrific question. One, and you just kind of glossed over it because I think it's assumed that people do it. You said he has his financials.
Okay.
Well, financials, there's many different types of financials. And certainly every business owner has a way of, you can't fly the plane if you don't have any controls. So there's something going on. But whoever you're selling to looks at the business through typically what's called GAAP financials or would be audited financials. And you don't have to have audited financials to sell your business, but you really need your financial house in order. And so just thinking that you have quote financials is not always, businesses are run very differently, family-owned businesses than if you're selling to someone. And that's honestly, depending on the type of business, and it's not necessarily your size, that takes some time and is a little painful in terms of how you need to, it's matching up all the expenses with the revenue and especially if you're project oriented, having works in progress. And so there is really this next level of financials that I would recommend that people, if they're thinking about selling their business, just not necessarily you have to have them right this second, but understand that's something that certainly you're going to have to, it's going to be have to be in order. The second thing I think people don't understand, selling your business is a job. It consumes you. And that takes away from time of running the business. So you need to, it can't be, a lot of people I think, I'll dip my toe in the water, I'll do this. It's a commitment. And really where it really falls down, and so this kind of gets to the financial picture, but also really who often the weight of the world comes down on is the CFO. Typically, so if you don't have someone in your organization, it doesn't have to be a CFO, but if you don't have someone in your organization who can really take the weight of a transaction, what I mean by that is the due diligence, the request for information, it's just a very voluminous process, putting together your offering memorandum. But then once you actually if you decide to move forward with someone, it's all consuming. And there's no guarantee it's going to close.
Yeah, let me interject. Can I interject on that one too?
Sure.
So when I referenced the deal that I did probably 16, 17 years ago, and we went through a very quick due diligence process. I'd say it was like 4 or 5 months. I'm sure you'd agree that was quick. And
but most people would think that 4 or 5 months are like I think your typical owner is going to think 30 days.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be 4 to 5 months is the fastest, correct? Right. So
it's normal.
So yeah. And I felt that it was a proctology exam, quite honestly. And the good news for the company that I sold is that we didn't have a big whip. We weren't doing a lot of construction-based projects. We were a service-driven company. And so, the job costing wasn't as difficult as it could have been. But I will say
due diligence, the whole industry, because of technology, because of all the consultants, it's a proctology exam.
It's a proctology
beyond and above what's frankly really necessary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But I want to caution people because I do want you to sell. I want you to get capital for growth. I want you to get capital for the right reasons. But when you hear this, I'm going to sell my business, it sounds great. And it can be great. And look, I sold a $3.5 million business that was a great commercial service electrical company in 2008, and I regretted it, and I did regret it. And I went out online and I got a phone call from somebody that said, "Are you done at 41?" And I said no, and I started another company. I can only tell you that when you restart that, for everyone who wants to restart their life and they think they can do it again, those first 6 years of AltaVista were some of the most trying years of my life. Not only because I was building a business that wasn't making a profit, I was building a business that I didn't understand as well as I understood the electrical business, and the stress that went into it. And the thought of failure on thinking we can do it again, that's very difficult. And so I just caution people, if you think you're just going to go out and do it again, you're going to reinvent all those early years. And Andrew said something to me when I had lunch with him 6 months ago. It doesn't take 3 to 4 years to build a great business. It might take 10 to 15 years. You remember, I'm sure you remember saying
15
that.
years.
Yeah.
That's what I tell
And
people,
look,
15 years.
and now I'm sitting on a business that I'm a 51% holder of. I've got three amazing business partners. I've got a host of amazing staff, and we're a $20 million company, and it's been a great run. But those 7 years in transition were very difficult. And so, look, if you ever have a question, I mean, AltaVista, we actually want to invest in our customers. We want to provide our customers a conduit for investment. We want to be, there's no PwC for contractors, right? We want to be the PwC. We want to be your consultants. We want to get you there. We've been through a lot at our company, and I think we can provide a lot of value. But I know, Hockel, I know we're sidetracking on your agenda a bit.
But
No,
but I think this is something that frankly should have been at the top of the list, and a great point. There's no right or wrong answer. This is a lifestyle decision.
Right.
What are you doing with the rest of your life? Money is not a destination. Money is not, it's not the rest of your life. It's a nice tool to have and certainly can improve your life. So I think that from a personal perspective, and you're absolutely right. And some people love entrepreneurship. So they actually thrive in that 7 to 10 years of misery.
Yeah. Well,
I personally think
agreed.
it's quite difficult. And I bow down to anyone who does it. I think entrepreneurship, leading people, is incredibly difficult. And you should reap the rewards if you're successful doing it. But fundamentally, if you're thinking it as a financial transaction, I'm gonna get back in and make a whole bunch of money, and that's not the way to go about it. And then the third thing, just to keep going with where Aaron was. So, I would go talk to some investment bankers. When we sell businesses, we hire investment bankers. I'm not a huge fan of some investment bankers because they don't really like the way we invest. They prefer to sell the entire business as opposed to showing their sellers the type of capital we are. But on the other side, the seller, an investment banker, is obviously educated on what's going on with the market and can tell you the different options. I would bring up the option that we and others do represent. It's in the minority, no pun intended, but the minority equity investing. A lot of sellers don't even know that's out there, that you can actually take some money off the table, be happy about that, but not run into the problems Ray was talking about in terms of reinventing. We'll actually put money on the balance sheet and help you be partners with you and Ray to take you to the next level.
I have one thing. I hate to cut you off, but the thing I love about that story, and the part that you're not telling isn't the goal of that though, to then continue to grow the business and continue to win, right? Right. That's the idea, right? You know what I mean? You're not
the goal behind but when you sell the private equity.
I mean, with you, right?
Oh,
where you're
absolutely.
Like, hey, I'm going to come in, we're going to go 30, 40%. You're going to take a win off the table. You're going to put something, you're going to do this for your kids or that, right? Whatever your ambition goal is, you get to wake up every day, go to work, be incentivized. And when you do what you're continuing that you're good at, you win, the business owner wins, your employees, your staff, your team wins. So when you partner with the right person and it goes the right way, there's a lot of ways they can win.
That's the amazing thing about capitalism.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me interject on this because I've got some good insight on Andrew, and I know he's going to be very tame, but you're gonna have a better business, by the way, if you engage with Andrew. His ideas, his knowledge of the economy, his experience in business, and it's staggering what your organization will do. So I think it is a huge win. And again, you're getting a better business. And I thought about taking money off the table. I'm 55 years old today, and I've got an organization that's incredibly valuable. I'm not selling. There's no way I'm selling the business. But I did talk to Andrew, and I would have loved to have Andrew as a partner. and take some chips off the table, right? I mean, that's the only thing I'm willing to do at this stage of the game. And Andrew, do you remember the advice you gave me?
Yeah, the advice was not to do it and keep growing.
Yeah, he said, don't sell a share.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Andrew. I mean, pragmatic and candid and incredibly knowledgeable. So I really appreciated that. And there are times we're business owners, right? And we get scared and we see things happening and you say, well, what if I don't sell it now at the top? At if you invest in your business, you're going to go through cycles. And we've talked about this on the last couple episodes that, yeah, the economy's slowing. There's going to be people that are pulling back right now. And so there is a little fear. I had dinner with someone last night who told me when I said in October, we're going to be in a slowdown next year. He told me I was crazy. And he told me last night, he's like, my clients are all pulling back. So he's a little fearful. He's like, maybe I should have sold last year. I go, well, maybe you should just invest in your business and take advantage of the times that we're going to get. Because Andrew, what we said on the cast last time is that if you pull back today, right? We said 2008 was the pullback economy, right? You had to pull back in 08. You had to hunker down, preserve capital. That was 08. This is not a hunker down. We're a little bit of a slowdown. Things are going to, probably stay level here. Invest in your business, invest in your brand. Go out and take advantage of the weakness. And that's what we're seeing. And we have 650 clients. We are seeing clients pull back every day, and we're seeing clients invest every day. Mm-hmm. And Aaron was just on a trip to Chicago. I bet you saw some clients that are looking to invest in their business in Chicago. I'm sure you.
Seriously.
Well, I hope you. By the way, I hope you did because
yes,
we did. Your trip cost is
yeah.
Andrew. If you're going to invest in AltaVista ever, we gotta dial Aaron's expenses in just a smidge.
It depends on what the ROI is.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron's ROI is very, very, very high. So
I guarantee you, my trade show ROI model, Andrew, would not fit with what you would typically look for in a in a group,
hey,
right?
Aaron, talk about your trip. You went on a trip to Chicago. You met with $1 billion customer, right?
Yep.
And awesome. You met with some $20 million customers. What did they say?
And I met with a $5 million customer too.
Okay, right? Great. What was the take?
So the take was they're all looking to grow. They all have needs. They all have, strategies. They all have challenges. The challenges look very different at each group, right? But every one of them is, we need to accomplish this to advance our business, right? With some of them, I need to get my residential lead gen, the residential arm of my business up because the cash flow is really great for a small business, 5 million, right? On the other side, it was, how do I grow geographically? How do I get more of these strategic accounts? How do I find a couple jobs through current customers in other parts of the country? We're in Chicago, it gets freezing. A lot of our clients work outdoors. That client was, hey, how do I find something through an existing partnership in a warm state so I can keep my crews busy, I can have some project going on, I can have some work going on, right? And then on the big end of the spectrum, their needs and challenges, whereas, some of them are, we need better reporting. We need better integration with our CRM. We need better automations and customer journeys, right? Amongst a host of things.
Right. So again, Andrew, I've never really shared this with you, but there are, PwC doesn't get into the contracting space. And so we want to be those consultants. We want to talk about process automations. We have AI, we have coders, we have technology, and we have sources of capital. So again, if you have needs like that, and again, we don't talk about AI on the podcast a lot, but AI is being used a lot for process automations. There's so many things you could be doing with those internally to streamline your operations. Certainly, we're using it for a whole host of things on our side, but we're running a little long here. Hockel, I want to make sure you get your agenda in here. You got anything else for us? Or
I had one last question. You brought up, hey, I'm 55. I thought about taking some chips off the table, right? You know what I mean? One thing we talked about kind of in our pre-conversation was, and I think, Andrew, this was something that you brought up, or maybe Ray. Can you help someone buy out a partner?
We talked about the life journey, and one partner's ready to pull it up, stop, and other ones not. And yeah, no, absolutely. We're very good management-led buyouts, buying out a partner. That absolutely. We are very flexible and love those opportunities. And I just want to say one quick thing. I mean, to me, businesses have to grow because human beings need to grow and you need to be on your journey. And in a time of weakness is opportunity.
Right.
And if you
That's
look
great.
in the contracting space, whether it's residential, where we have a $30 trillion plus economy, and I believe 80% of it's consumer spending. It's an enormous market. And yes, the consumer could be softening a little bit, but all these trade services are not going away.
No way.
And there's
no way.
enormous opportunity from a technology standpoint, become more productive in the back office and inside the building. Then on the commercial side, the AI, the energy revolution, the data revolution, the infrastructure that's going to be required is going to be all the contractors.
Sure.
And it's an enormous opportunity there for a long time. So I think both from a macro perspective are very well positioned that, certainly maybe a little different spots in the business model, but long term, if you keep investing in your business, you're just going to attract better people. You're in an enormous market and you need to differentiate yourself and build your brand to what Ray and what AltaVista does. I mean, you're fundamentally, you're a culture and a brand. And your brand's a reflection of your culture. And
I want to thank you, Andrew, because we're going to get 100 phone calls on how our clients can get some data center work off of this podcast for sure.
Thanks.
Our back office is going to be grinding here.
The opportunity is enormous. I mean, the amount of Facebook spending $100 billion. That's just Facebook. I mean, you're going to have $1 trillion a year going into this infrastructure space, and it's real. It's needed.
It's real. Yeah, no, it's real. And I think, and again, I thought you directed a question at me, and I think one of my biggest regrets, Aaron, is you making me take the private equity off of our website in 2011. You remember you made? Yeah. See, he forgot. We had
short memories. Good business.
Yeah, we had our visionary website, what we were going to be. And we had private equity because I wanted to invest in some of our customers. And I'll share a quick story. I'll probably botch the numbers a smidge, but we have a power washing client and they tend to run a little small. And I would estimate they probably started off at $500,000 to $700,000. And I said, why, I'm like, why are we even doing business with this company? But at the end of the day, I think they were spending like $700 a month with AltaVista. And we're going back to like 2011. Today, their monthly fee is about $4,000 a month, and they're about a $4 million power washer. They run a great business. They're great guys, but I think the commitment to the marketing, the consistency and the good times and the bad times, they've built a tremendous business. And again, we work with customers that are doing 4 million. We have multiple billion-dollar customers. I can't believe we actually are saying that today because I never thought we'd have a billion-dollar contractor. But I don't know if you knew that, Andrew. We probably got
amazing.
$3 or $4 billion customers today.
And what you're doing is relevant for any size of company, and I think it's an extension of your culture to the customer, which is really, is marketing. I mean, that to me is marketing is not the right word because you do so much more.
We do so much more, yeah.
You got to come up with a better word because it's one of the. Along with culture, marketing is such an important piece of your business.
Yeah.
Huge impact.
We're trying, in all honesty, we're trying to say, okay, we're a marketing company. We do a lot more than marketing for our customers. And the customers that engage us for questions, we'll do sales trainings pro bono. We're going to be doing strategic marketing consulting. We're going to be doing process automation consulting, just so we can get our customers to a level where they're going to beat their competition. It behooves us to take our knowledge and make our customers stronger. They don't always open up. They don't always come to us. You know why? Because they're busy. It's the entrepreneurial myth.
Gotta have your priorities. That's right, number one.
Right, but Michael Gerber, right? I know there's a lot of Michael Gerber fans that the E-Myth. And it's like, we're busy. We're doing it. But if you take that 10% of your day and you spend it working on your business, let us help you. And if you have any needs with capital, certainly reach out to us. We're happy to connect on what we can help with. And if we can't help or it's beyond our needs, certainly we've got Andrew here on the side. And again, the story of the power washer came, I wanted to invest in that business. Imagine what the valuation would have looked like. Why don't you sometimes want to sell a business? Well, what was the valuation at $500,000? Wasn't much. What's the valuation today
Exactly.
on a 40 GP power washer that's netting 10%? I mean, it's a nice business, and it would have been a nice strategic tuck away for AltaVista. But yeah, we'll get another one. So, Aaron, what else do you have for us?
I got my last question. Andrew, give us a parting piece of advice. Give us something, give the listener something to just walk away with. And if they're still listening, they're going to be rewarded for listening to the end because of this last comment or piece of advice.
I think we're just at a very special time in our history for a lot of reasons, culturally, technology, United States, size of the economy. And some people, you can be fearful or you can be excited. And that's a choice. And I find entrepreneurs are the ones who are not fearful and take advantage of the opportunities. And there is amazing opportunities over the next 5 to 10 years in the contracting business. And I would want people to take that away, that they're in a great spot, and they need to, with the help of you guys and some other best practices, the world is their oyster.
Awesome. I love that.
One other thing I'd like to add too is, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody asked me, why is the multiple a certain number? And I said, the multiple's about the yield, right? The investor wants yield. So they're going to put a multiple on it to calculate their yield. Is that really how you look at it?
I mean, that's how they're underwriting, but the multiple fundamentally is just, that's the metric used to value, and which is driven by the market.
Right.
Now you back of the envelope when they're deciding, can they pay this or that? Yes, that's how obviously the higher multiple you pay, more debt you have to put on it, more cash flow goes to that. And that definitely impacts it.
Okay.
But why something goes for 4 times versus 6 times versus 8 times is really a market dynamic that's mainly driven by timing and supply and demand.
And the type of business, recurring versus non-recurring. And,
absolutely. That would create the market.
I told my friend, one thing I told my friend was, you're too involved in your business as the president. You're touching every customer. Your valuation's going down, right? Because
and so you made a great comment. You said working on the business, not in the business.
Right.
And
exactly.
that is the hardest transition for leadership and for entrepreneurs because it's an entirely different skill set than where they got to. Yep. And that's where we talk about the curiosity for someone who wants to get to the next level. And if they do, you're a terrific partner, I'm a terrific partner, and you really have something special and can take it to the next level. If you don't, if you're always going to be in the business, and I've seen this, it's not going to go anywhere. You can work as hard as you want, and you're just going to spin your wheels.
Yep.
Which is, so as I said, there's no judgment here. I think there's no wrong decisions. It's just what do you want to create in your journey?
Yep. Aaron, what do you have? Anything else?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, Andrew, it's great having you. Look forward to connecting soon.
And our golf match.
Yeah, I still want to know what the handicap is, because I'm a 7.
What is your handicap?
I'm gonna caddy though.
I'm a 7.
I'll be there.
Okay, so is that an index or handicap?
It's an index. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd give you like 3 shots or whatever, 2 to 3 shots.
Yeah.
I'll live stream
for the round.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We're
gonna make it.
GoPro.
We'll make it happen.
We'll
make it happen.
Aaron,
thanks again, guys.
Andrew, thank you very much. Everybody listening, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the AltaVista Angle. We appreciate it, and we look forward to sharing a future episode with you.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.